Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and today we're continuing our Siege of Hefei Let's Talk Lore series with part 5 titled The Fourth Siege of 233. Now last time we ended as Manchong returned to Hefei after a brief spat with Wang Ling that resulted in his temporary retirement, and I need to make one correction to the age of Wang Ling and Manchong. As in 231, Wang Ling should be just 60, which should make Manchong in his late 60s. My mistake arises from the fact that Wang Ling would go on to die in the year 251 at the age of 80, and while we don't know the exact year of Manchong's birth, we do have documents from Wang Ling stating that Manchong is older than him, and since Manchong would die in 242 from old age, I had always assumed that he died in his late 80s, which would make both of them in their 70s, as I claimed in the last episode, but I'm a few years ahead of myself here. Regardless, this is just a minor mistake that I want to correct as we'll return to our story, with Manchong sending a shocking request to the Wei court in early 233, stating his desire to get funding to move the entire city of Hefei west by 25 kilometers. Now, to understand why Manchong want to demolish a perfectly good stronghold in Hefei and then move it brick by brick to a site 25 kilometers to the west, we have to first discuss the origins of the city of Hefei. Now, starting with the name Hefei, the name itself literally means the union of the Fei rivers, as if we look at the map here, the city sits on the land bridge that connects the Nanfei River, or the South Fei River, to the Dongfei River, or the East Fei River. While these two rivers share the same name, they actually do not connect. And during the Three Kingdoms period, water transportation was vitally important to military logistics, as it dramatically reduces the amount of manpower needed for transports, and more importantly, the amount of food that the transport team itself would need to consume on the journey, as it was often the case that only 5% of the food sent would end up reaching the army, while the other 95% would be consumed on the way by the transport team if the supply land was over land. On top of this key logistical advantage, for Sun Quan and the Kingdom of Wu in particular, their navy is one of their key strengths, so fighting for control of water routes naturally suited them. And before the construction of the Grand Canal in the Sui dynasty, that is still more than 500 years away, there was no direct water routes from the Yangtze River that could reach the north. The closest thing to a direct water route for Sun Quan was through this land bridge at Hefei, as the Nanfei River connects to the Yangtze River, while the Dongfei River connects to the Huai River in the north. And from the Huai River, Sun Quan's ship can reach cities like the imperial capital in Xuchang without ever having to land. But to gain control of this route, Hefei must be taken first, as whoever controls Hefei controls the land bridge between these two Fei rivers. Historically speaking, Hefei city always sat on the south end of this land bridge on the north bank of the Nanfei River, but Manchong now wanted to move it west to the banks of the Dongfei River instead. On paper, it still provides the same level of control over the land bridge, but in practice, Manchong argued that the new location would make life much more difficult for Sun Quan and the Wu armies, as now, instead of allowing Sun Quan to launch his attacks close to his navy, Sun Quan would have to abandon his ships, march across the land bridge before attacking Hefei in its new location. While this added distance was not much, it would give the Wei forces three new advantages. First, ambushes can be set alongside the path to harass Sun Quan's approaching army. Second, the added land route would complicate Sun Quan's supply lines and force them to divert a sizable portion of their army to guard the ships and organize supply transport to the siege. Third, if, like the previous attempts, where the Wu siege was beaten back, now Sun Quan cannot just hop on their ships and return home, as the retreat from the new site back to Sun Quan's ships would create additional opportunities for the Wei forces to inflict more casualties during the pursuit. But when Man Chong's request was being reviewed by the court, Jiang Ji blasted the proposal as ludicrous, as Jiang Ji argued that no state should tear down a stronghold voluntarily before the enemy have even proven capable of taking it. It would be an embarrassment to Wei and a waste of resources, money, and manpower to move a stronghold farther back into Wei's territory. Hearing this, Emperor Cao Rui agreed, as Man Chong's request was denied. But Man Chong did not give up, as he immediately filed the request again. This time, Man Chong would cite passages from The Art of War, which states that by showing weakness when you're strong is how you can bait the enemy into unfavorable situations. Therefore, moving Hefei back is just a tactic to lure Sun Quan into a false sense of confidence, which would ultimately allow the Wei forces to achieve an even grander victory. While Jiang Ji was still opposed to the plan, advisor Zhao Zi, who was very close to Sima Yi, became convinced, as with his support, Emperor Cao Rui finally approved Man Chong's plans to move Hefei west. So immediately, workers started to take apart the fortifications at the current site, as the new Hefei castle was completed before the year was over. Thus, when Sun Quan returned with his army at the end of 233 for the fourth siege of Hefei, what he saw from his ships was the empty ruins of where Hefei used to stand. Confused, Sun Quan sent scouts to explore ahead, and when reports that Hefei was being erected 25 kilometers west of their position, defending the entryway into Dongfei River, Sun Quan became even more confused. Then for the next 20 days, the Wu army did not leave their ships as Sun Quan pondered over the situation. By this time, Man Chong already was informed of the presence of Sun Quan's navy, and after seeing no reaction by the Wu forces, Man Chong instructed his army to move out of the city to garrison out front, as he explained that the ever-prideful Sun Quan would respond by at least marching his troop out of his ships, which would provide them the perfect opportunity to strike, as the Wu army would not be ready to fight while disembarking from their ships. So while Man Chong's infantry filed out the city, a cavalry force numbering 6,000 strong were ordered to sneak through the forest to await for the Wu army to start leaving their ships. And once again, Man Chong would read Sun Quan perfectly, as after scouts reported that the Wei forces had left their fortification inside Hefei to give a show of force outside the city, Sun Quan proudly ordered his army to disembark just to match the Wei forces, as he did not want to appear a coward. But just as his army started disembarking, the Wei cavalry struck, as it easily killed the first few hundred that had left the ship in a quick hit and run. Furious, Sun Quan immediately ordered a full attack on the new Hefei castle, while a secondary force of 50,000 troops, led by General Quan Cong, were sent westwards to attack the town of Luan. Now, the battles around Luan would be rather sparse, as it was a very small town, and the civilians residing there decided to evacuate the town before Quan Cong's arrival. And when advised to pursue these refugees, Quan Cong decided against it, claiming that kidnapping civilians was beneath the actions of a proper kingdom, as the Luan campaign ended without much material gains. Back at Hefei, the new fortification proved just as difficult to siege as the old one, and after launching a few assaults just to save face from the earlier disembarking incident, Sun Quan ordered his troops back, as the fourth siege of Hefei ended mainly due to the surprise factor of New Hefei Castle, as Sun Quan had never expected the entire city to move places. But now that the location of New Hefei Castle is known, Sun Quan will return in full force next year in 234 for his fifth and final siege of Hefei, as letters from Zhuge Liang also informed Sun Quan that the Shu Han army had finished preparations for their largest northern expedition and wished that Wu can do the same and take the opportunity to open up a second front against Wei. So with that, we're going to end our episode here, as we'll return next time to discuss the 5th siege of Hefei. And hopefully you all have enjoyed this episode enough to hit that like button to help support the channel, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!